Welcome to the first episode of the SportsBruiserz Podcast. And for this one, we're going to be making a little bit of it short for this one. Starting off with the kind of introduction here, it is going to be a playlist on YouTube where I'll be posting, of course, on there too, the link to the new playlist, as well as, of course, posting the videos on X or Twitter, as well. I'll also be breaking them down into separate videos too if you don't want to listen to the whole rants, the whole video of it. But again, getting into it for episode 1, which technically I made one a couple years ago, but that was absolutely horrible. So we're starting over again with episode 1 for this one. And some of the topics, again, going to be something relatively quickly, talking about a little bit, some NBA and also for NFL. Talking about the Thunder with huge contract extensions they've given out to as recently, ever since, after the NBA championship win. We're going to be talking about the Dolphins bringing back Darren Waller in a trade and unretiring, coming back to them in the NFL after taking 2024 off, as well as just quickly about uniforms. If you're a fanatic about that, talking about real quick about the Commanders and the Saints bringing back alternate helmets and uniforms for the Commanders. So, get into all that. But starting off, let's start with the OKC Thunder. After coming off, I don't want to say historic, but, in some, certain stats, it is historic for their season. Number 1 seed in the Western Conference, having, some difficulty at times in the playoffs, but more so in the NBA Finals when no one really expected them to get to Game 7 or force a Game 7 to that point. Everyone thought it was going to be OKC in 5, maybe 4 in that regard, but, easier path to the finals. It was more the challenging part, at least, again, game-wise, getting to that point for how many games it took for them to win it. But ever since the championship win, they've given out big contracts. Of course, we saw SGA get a mega contract, 5 years, $272 million. Now, again, this is going off of Spock Track. So some of them are, high. It can get up to like $287 million. I think it is for SGA. We'll get into Jalen Williams in a second as well. I think his also is up to like max is $287 million. But at least for right now, going off of what we have for Spock Track to go right now, 4 years, $272 million, mega contract, and much deserving after, in terms of accolades and what he accomplished, a historic season, being a first team All NBA, of course, making NBA All Stars as well, a scoring champion, MVP, Finals MVP champion. I mean, you name it, he was all across the board. He had a fantastic historic year, regardless how you feel about him. If you want to, knock him for the free throws and all, I call him a merchant for that, or you want, plenty of people call the OKC Thunder, frauds and Mickey Mouse championship because of the injuries they went through in the playoffs and of course in the finals in Game 7. But again, regardless, it's well deserved. It's a historic. He's been phenomenal, especially the last 3 years, making the last 3 years first team All NBA. And again, talk about the accolades of what he's accomplished. So they locked him down. As of right now, still at age 26, soon to be 27 in. Relatively soon, in a couple of days, actually. The day recording, July 10th right now. July 2nd is his birthday, so soon to be 27 years old. You have Chet Holmgren, who also got a big contract, 5 years, $239 million as well. Up there, still up there still relatively young, 23 years old, and this one does not turn 24 until next May. Locked him down for 5 years as well. And, of course, newly signed Jalen Williams, who got a big contract as well. 5 years, $239 million. But I did see a report, again, saying like SGA, that it can go up to $287 million, 24 years old. Doesn't turn 25 until next April. So they have already identified the main pieces to them for this core. Locked him down for 5 years. In terms of total money spent, they've been throwing a ton of money around. Again, just looking at the base salary for Spock Track, they've spent $750 million in 3 contracts, which is insane to think about it. But again, they wanted to target the main guys, want to target the core pieces, and they feel like that they can keep this going. Now, we've seen in the NBA for the last 7 years problems of repeating. And, there's videos I wanted to make about, LeBron, talking about his tenure with the Lakers. You look at Giannis as well. And I've always kind of said too that it's not just a LeBron issue. It's not a Giannis issue. It's every team issue that's won the championship, not being able to just go back there and win it. We've had in the stretch for 7 years, the first time in NBA history, 7 different championships winners. And, certainly the OKC, you would hope in terms of what they have there, the core pieces and what they did, and what they still have, Alex Caruso, a good part of that too, coming off the bench. He's there until 2028-29 season. You look at their center, Isaiah Hartenstein. He's there until there's a club option in 2026-27, but he won't be an unrestricted free agent until 2027-28, and that was part of the starting role with that one. So you look at what they have there. They've done a great job of trades and drafts and so forth, and developing players throughout the years, and it's paid off for them, no doubt. And certainly they are going to have high expectations and certainly pressure to repeat, because if they don't, again, you look at the money they spent, the team that they have, a very young team still, even with winning the championship, that it's they should repeat. And if they don't, it's going to be heavily scrutinized. I mean, again, even for them winning the championship, there's already lots of doubt. I mean, I'm not part of that group that says that, it's a fake ring, it's a Mickey Mouse ring. But I would say in the last, what do we call it, 10 to 15 years, that if you are ranking championship teams that have won it, that they are going to be probably at the lower tier, the bottom of the list for that, at least towards the bottom of the list, because just a lot of people don't respect it. I think part of it too is just because of, in part, a small market, which shouldn't even matter to begin with, but I think people kind of do throw it in there. It's not flashy, it's not LeBron, it's not Steph Curry, not Giannis in the finals winning it. Again, you have a rising superstar, if not already a superstar, in SGA, who, of course, adding on top of it as well, is the cover athlete of 2K26. But, again, there are some question marks at SGA. People always, what I said earlier a few minutes ago with, of course, the free throws and all that, the fouls and so forth. But, again, the OKC Thunder have really targeted what they have there, and they have something very promising. I don't want to sit here and say it's a dynasty. They certainly have a potential, again, with the young players they have and the players they still have on the roster in terms of the main pieces. It should certainly be a possibility. I mean, it's probably one of the better set teams to do so, but we've seen other teams fail apart. We thought Giannis in 2021 when he won, we thought, okay, maybe they broke through. Maybe this is Giannis' time to go out there and win multiple, win back-to-back maybe. They have fallen flat since then. You look at the Boston Celtics that broke through, and you thought, okay, maybe they can do this. And unfortunately, there has been injury this year or this past playoffs with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That Tatum most likely going to miss all of next season, which is definitely a big hit for them. So we'll see how the Celtics do this upcoming season, as well as you look at the the year prior to that with the Denver Nuggets, which Jokic, Murray, and so forth, Gordon. Porter, who's no longer there, who they traded recently. You thought maybe they can build something here, and same thing too, have not been able to replicate what they did in the finals. Again, I don't want to say it's a one team issue. It's everybody. Whatever you want to say, it's because of Adam Silver and how the league it's set up now, especially for the luxury tax that is punishing teams that develop and build teams well. Yes, it certainly is that. As opposed to other leagues, when you look at the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs dynasties, the Chiefs dominating that league since Patrick Mahomes has been there, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 championships. You look at the NHL's perspective with the Tampa Bay Lightning, who made 3 straight, won 2 Stanley Cups, and of course these last three seasons after that from the Lightning, 3 straight finals from the Florida Panthers, winning the last 2. So you see other leagues where it is that dynasty aspect, or at least teams repeating, getting back to there, as opposed to the NBA where it's not that anymore. Again, because part of it too is because of the luxury tax, the heavy penalties for it, if it gets to a certain point for the money. So, again, it might get to that point relatively soon for the OKC Thunder. It might very well get to that point, and this could be all null and void in a year or two when they are probably going to be close to that, or at least around, past the luxury tax, and they're going to have to make tough decisions. But they are trying to cash in now. They're trying to lock everyone down and make another run for another year or two. And I didn't see too far forward of how their salary cap looks, or say salary cap in a year or two. But just like all these other teams, they're gonna have to make tough decisions, and they're gonna have to try and wiggle their way around it, like the Boston Celtics, who have you saw getting rid of Drew Holiday, getting rid of Kristaps Porzingis as well, which is of course cap issues. So again, we'll see what happens with the OKC Thunder, but it's it's exciting to see small market teams win it. And again, I know people are very upset because it's not your typical superstar matchup. Sorry, it's not the Cavs, LeBron, and the Warriors. For the 7th straight time. I'm sorry, you don't get your superstars every single year, but eventually these guys are gonna be phased out. They're not gonna be playing the NBA anymore, and you're gonna have to get used to the new potential stars or superstars. And SGA again is reaching that point, or if he's already at that point, if you want to dub him as a superstar, given what he's done. And you would hope that, just like these other teams I mentioned, that they had a bright future, and we assume they'll be back, they'll win more, they'll be a dynasty potentially. It's again, in the last 7 years, it has not panned out that way for other teams that we expected that to. So we'll see. I mean, certainly they have maybe the highest potential because of just given the age of the players. But again, we'll see what they can do next year. Some part that people kind of question is just the injuries that players that they ran into for teams that had injuries. Again, you look at Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7. Some people really feel if he didn't get hurt in the first quarter of the Game 7 that the Pacers could have won that matchup. And you look at other games that, as well for maybe another potential matchup in the Eastern Conference with the Boston Celtics. Maybe if Tatum doesn't go down, even though at that point they were really down in the series as it was, but maybe it was the Boston Celtics that could have, somehow made it to the finals, and we could have a different discussion. Maybe we're talking about Boston winning a championship back-to-back years, or however you want to call it. People want to throw in Dame Lillard too, which I don't think is even a factor, but people also throw that argument as well. So there's a lot of people that want to put an asterisk on it. So for them, if they want to kind of prove people wrong, that they can go back out there, and again, they are built to, I would assume on paper, to repeat. They certainly have the best chance. But again, the Western Conference is getting tough again. You have teams getting better. Other teams like the Houston Rockets who get Kevin Durant. How do you feel about that? The Denver Nuggets kind of bolstering the roster, again, getting rid of Porter Jr. and bringing other players as well to make the team better. And you just go on the list too. You have the Lakers, if you want to throw in there every single year with Luka and LeBron and what they're going to do there. So again, it's going to be tough for the Western Conference of them going through it again. If you want to throw in, of course, Timberwolves, maybe they can try and break through after back-to-back conference finals losses. So it's going to be very tough for the OKC Thunder, but again, on paper and what they've solidified and what they've shown you in terms of the contracts given out so quickly, that they trust these guys. They believe that these are their core players. These are the big three or top three players on the team, and that they feel confident that they can go out there and repeat, and they can potentially break this curse of the streak of not having a repeat team win it in a short amount of time. So we'll see how it plays out for OKC, but I'm very interested to see, and if you want to say it's rewarding or not, or deserving for these guys. Certainly SGA, Chet Holmgren, I'm surprised they gave out such a big contract, but it is what it is for that one. Also, you have Jalen Williams as well. They all played well in the season, in the playoffs as well. So we'll see how well OKC does next season when it starts, and we'll see how if they can kind of show everyone like, hey, this wasn't just a fluke. We went there, we deserved it, we earned it, and we'll win back-to-back. So we'll see what OKC does next season, if there's any more changes, if they lose anyone or sign someone else, if they can at this point, given the money they spent. But we'll see what they can do next year. So next, we're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins, which, of course, we saw a couple weeks ago with the big trade with Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and Mika Fitzpatrick, as well as a late pick they got in return. As well as that, I think the next day, the day after that, they decided to surprise a lot of people and trade for Darren Waller, who the Giants still had his rights to. I think they also gave like a mid to late first, I think it was more so a late round pick for Waller. He retires. He said that was his only destination he wanted to go to. And it's going to be very interesting to see what he can be at this point. Given that he is 32 years old, he hasn't really accomplished that much, or has been that player like we saw in Vegas. If you look back to those the big years, 2019 and 2020, Oakland, Las Vegas, and they'll kind of split up with that. Where in 2019 he had 90 catches for over 1,100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he the next year he goes 107 catches for over 1,100 yards as well, 9 touchdowns, and since then he has not been able to replicate that at all. He's had some decent seasons, but certainly has not lived up to what it was before. 2021, he played 11 games, 55 receptions, 665, 2 touchdowns, and the injuries really the last 2 years playing, I should say, has really caught up to him. Only 9 games in Las Vegas. His last year in 2022, and then they make the big trade to get him in 2023 for the Giants. He only plays 12 games, and he only has 52 catches for 552 yards, 1 touchdown. If you look at his PFF grade for that, it's not horrible stats. I always say, I would throw out there for grades if you buy into it. Overall grade, he was 14th in NFL, so top 15 tight end. I think it means anything, but the tight end position, there's only really the top, very few at the top that really means something after that. It's kind of, I want to say similar like fantasy football, where if you only get the top guys, it's all kind of just, all over the place with it. Receiving grade, he was 10th in the NFL for that. For breaking down where he ranks for targets, receptions, yards, and so forth. He was 17th in the league for targets for 72, 17th in the league receptions for 52, like we talked about, 16th in the league for 552 yards, and then 32nd in the NFL with receptions for 1. Looking at his advanced stats as well, looking for pass snaps, he was ranked 23rd in that aspect, 22nd in routes ran. He was 4th in drops. He only had 1. So he was really good. He was really good in that. Yards per reception, 14th, and average depth of target, 11th, which 7.9. So again, it's not a absolutely horrible season, but again, for teams that are really banking on that 2019-2020 Darren Waller, that is long gone. To me, it didn't make any sense. And I guess part of it too is, of course, the contract with Jonnu Smith trying to extend it. I'm sure he certainly would be looking for big money in the next, for really his last opportunity to really get a lot, tons of money. That maybe, certainly it would have been already high enough as it is for what he did, especially last year when really kind of, caught fire towards that, second half of the season, and statistically as well for PFF for rankings, he was elite, if you want to say in the top echelon, with being fourth really all across the board for targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns. It's for me, I think you really just put a downgrade on there. I mean, Jonnu Smith is younger, not that much, but 29, soon to be 30. You have Waller, who had a year off, so maybe he healed his body a little bit more and comes back healthier. But again, what we've seen from Waller last few years, outside of those two great seasons, that it just hasn't been enough. And I think certainly it's a puzzling move. I think I applauded them for making the move for the Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. I think that the Steelers were crazy to make that trade, that you kind of bought a stock at the highest point for Jonnu Smith, and there's a high chance it's going to lose its value very quickly, especially with Arthur Smith and how they run the offense. You have Jalen Ramsey, who, yes, is still a good corner, but I think people kind of overhype him too much, and I think some people still believe he's that elite corner, aging one as well. On top of the money he's receiving is crazy. And I think they still get a good corner, or a good safety in Mika Fitzpatrick, who, of course, funny enough, they originally drafted and traded to Pittsburgh. Where is he the same player he was, first team All Pro? No, but he's still, to me, he's still a really good safety. And if they did a phenomenal job in that move, kind of, if you want to say, stealing the trade for the from the Steelers. But this was kind of a puzzling move for this one. I mean, certainly you got rid of Jonnu Smith. Yes, it was a great move to do that, selling the stock really high. But who's also going to replace him? And I think this was kind of, to me, this was a very puzzling move there, because I think, again, the same thing like the Giants, you're just hoping that you can get that replication of what he did early on, at least close to that. And I just, it's very, I just don't see it. I think it's a weird move. I think you really took a couple steps forward in that trade to really show, kind of shock people, like, wow, Miami actually did this. Like, they pulled this off. And then you kind of took a step back with the Waller trade. And it's just, you're kind of hoping instead of knowing that he is that guy still. And again, we'll see what happens with Darren Waller, but it's very, it's worrisome for the offense that you took away. How do you feel about Jonnu Smith? Even though I'm kind of hyping up, saying he's a one season wonder, really at this point, he hasn't really had a season like this in years past, and he's on his fifth team, if I have that correctly. So it shows you how other teams view him as a tight end. But yeah, again, even still with that, it's just to me, it's just I don't know. I just don't see. I don't know how Waller's going to fit in with this. I think you're taking away weapons from Tua at this point. Again, you're just more so hoping for that. And you still have A-Chain, you still have Tyreek, still have Jalen Waddle, but I think it really worked out for Jonnu Smith. And who knows, maybe he would have had another great season in 2025 if he would have stayed in the team and had that, I guess the great rapport between him and Tua and Mike McDaniels and how he fit that system. So again, it's gonna be very puzzling. And if this does not work out and he has a similar season like he did in 2023, his last year in NFL, with the Giants, there's gonna be still a lot of questions on top of other things too. Of course, trying to make the playoffs. If they have a losing season or miss the playoffs, that Mike McDaniels might most likely lose his job and then might look for change in a different direction. So there is a lot of pressure all of them already. Of course, they're trying to do a culture change in all this. So again, I think they did a great step forward. Not just McDaniels, but also I think I would assume the GM as well. But he's been there for a long time. But again, I think as a team overall for the franchise, it was a great move for the Dolphins making this step. I think they do also in part have to eat some of the contract for Jalen Ramsey, if I have that right as well. So not 100% amazing, but certainly to get rid of those guys is a good move. And again, if it's a culture standpoint and there was an issue with Jalen Ramsey, you solve the issue, but also you have a bigger issue, in my opinion, with Tyreek Hill, and he's certainly more in the spotlight for the wrong reasons than Jalen Ramsey. But it is what it is. But again, for all things, like I said, if the season's not going well, and you have this on top of it where it's just not clicking, it's not working, it is certainly it's a low risk, but it's also certainly low risk, high risk, high reward, if you want to call it. If I can even get to high reward at that point, high risk, medium reward at that point. I mean, if you can replicate what Jonnu Smith did, absolutely, they hit a home run on that one. But if not, if it's 552 yards or 1 or 2 touchdowns, and he's not healthy for, he misses a good portion of the season, yes, it's certainly going to blow up in their face, and certainly Miami fans are going to look at this and be up in uproar with that. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Waller move. Again, very puzzling that they decided to go in this direction, but at this point you felt like it was desperate. They had to bring someone in there into the tight end room to replace Jonnu Smith. I think they already had their option, but also in part that they didn't want to pay Jonnu Smith the money. So, we'll see what happens with Darren Waller and the Miami Dolphins, how he fits into that system and how many games he really plays at this point, again, given the injury history he's had the last few seasons. And then finally, the alternate uniforms that came out yesterday with the Washington Commanders and, like I said, the New Orleans Saints. The Commanders was a full set uniform, helmet only for the Saints. So we're going to be going over the Commanders real quick. They bring back the throwback to, at the time, being called the Redskins in the 80s and 90s when they won Super Bowls in those decades, dubbed the Super Bowl era uniforms. And unfortunately, they're only alternate uniforms. They're going to be wearing it 3 games this year: Seattle Sunday Night Football, Denver Sunday Night Football, and Cowboys on Christmas. And these are, everyone completely agree. If you go on social media for the Commander site and other sites that posted it, that everyone loves this. To me, it's a huge upgrade. It's 10 times better than what they are wearing now for their current away uniform. The away uniform they wear now, it's very puzzling. It doesn't make any sense to the home one when you have only a good amount of yellow on that one, and the away one is really just the Nike logo that's yellow and everything else is not. It's very weird. It's horrible. It just kind of buys into, again, the modern day NFL teams that try and rebrand and do a horrible job, and in most cases just go back to the classics that people love. And certainly this is one of the cases where it's 10 times better. Everything from the helmet down is an upgrade. The face mask, instead of just a red face mask matching the helmet, it's yellow. That everyone loved. It's certainly, it complements each other very well. The jersey, again, much more yellow into that on the sleeves, the number outline, and as well as certainly on the front, the back, and the shoulders as well. Going down the pants as well, white and yellow stripes going down, as well as the socks with red and yellow stripes on the white socks. So none of this, same color tone for the pants and the socks as well, which is frustrating to see aesthetically. To me, it's just weird. A lot of teams do this. I don't know why. It's seeing the socks match the jerseys, a much better fit than the pants and the socks. But again, a much, much better look. As of right now, they are still in that 5-year window. So I think it's right. I think they have to wait until 2026 or after the 2026 season where they can make the change. So hopefully in that aspect that they can go out there and make that permanent change, at least for the away jersey. If they want to stick with the home jersey, where they, of course, last year they brought back the yellow pants, which made the home jersey look a little bit better, that at the very least, we're going to keep the home jersey, just switch the away jersey with this one, and I think people will be much happier. Or if not, and they want to make more money, of course, that they can make this a permanent away jersey and then make a whole new home jersey as well. So we'll see what it is. Also for the helmet, too, I hope that they keep the gold face mask for the whole season. I don't know if it's just tied to just only the alternate uniform or they're going to switch over to full-time with that. That would certainly make the whole jersey as a whole for the whole set a much better look. So again, I think the Commanders did a great job bringing this back. It's something everyone loved. I know some people really pushed for, of course, the old logo and name, which is never going to happen, but this is the closest that I guess you can get to that. And finally, we have the New Orleans Saints that revealed a white helmet into their rotation. White helmet, gold chrome, but gold face mask, and a gold stripe going down the middle as well. And this is to potentially replace the black helmet they have on their alternate jersey or their color rush jersey as it was before that. And so I'm put up a mock-up of it, kind of copy and paste it, but definitely trying to put it over the helmet and showed you the full look of that. For that, another one too, I think I'm looking at is the Graphic God that posted. He does an amazing job for mock-ups, and it looks amazing. It does. It's 10 times better again than the black helmet, which was very puzzling. I don't know, especially for the stripe going down, it's a much wider stripe, and I think it's all mini Saints logos in the middle going down the line. It's a weird look. It's just one of those things for the most part. Teams missing on rebrands or new helmets and so forth. You get some home runs like the Detroit Lions with their chrome blue, or you want to call it helmet, and their whole uniform in general. Amazing look. But most cases, again, teams just for some reason have a horrible job when you have getting paid whatever thousands, tens of thousands, millions of dollars, however you want to put it, as their main job, making horrible uniforms and concepts, and you have people who do it for free on social media that come up with a much better look. Going back to quickly, the 2K cover. People make much better concepts than the official EA one. So you look at that, and again, it's just very puzzling for that, but they redeemed themselves with this uniform, or this helmet, I should say. Much, much better look. It's certainly, with this combination now, it could certainly rise up now for the uniform, and now with the pairing with the helmet, that this could be one of the best alternate uniforms in the NFL. So I'm going to be very excited to see when this is debuted on the seat for the season. And I don't know for the helmet as well if it follows or it falls under the whole uniform set where you can only wear it for a maximum of 4 times a year, or you can wear it for much more than that. So again, I don't know how many more games or how many games this year they're going to be wearing the alternate uniform to give us the opportunity, but hopefully they can maximize the 4 games, if not the 3 games, and really showcase this off for everyone to see. But again, I think overall great looks for both of them, for the Washington Commanders and for the New Orleans Saints. I do think we have a couple more teams left. We have the Chargers, and I believe there was one other team I'm forgetting offhand that is also revealing helmets or uniforms as well. So I can't wait to see them. Hopefully they can keep the tie rolling with great concepts, great picks for this one. And this one is we're gonna wrap up episode 1. Again, this will be a quick one. It's as we get on with it further and further, and maybe if I could be a little more consistent with it, that it'll be slightly longer videos. But I want to make the first one quick introduction with it. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed with it, and you stick around for the podcast for many more episodes to come. Again, there'll be a playlist on my YouTube page if you go on there for the main homepage for that, and it'll be a playlist for that, and I'll be sharing as well as, of course, on YouTube and Twitter as well. And of course, I'll be trying to make smaller videos of each breakdown for that. So if you don't want to watch the full videos, you can pick a specific one. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.